gbogbo àwọn ẹ̀ka social media pátápátá ló ti connect mọ́ ètò ti alẹ́ yìí, àtorí Facebook o, àtorí Twitter o, àti ti orí Instagram pẹ̀lú TikTok pátápátá la fẹ́ rí pé gbogbo wọn ti wà ready láti join wa láti darapọ̀ mọ́ wa ní alẹ́ òní. We're streaming on Instagram and on YouTube.
So we have to ensure every other thing is live before we start.
And X also.
Okay, let me see on X.
Oh my goodness.
I think we are on all the lives. We are on. On all the stream.
Okay, are you ready now, Are?
Ẹ jẹ́ ká kí àwọn èèyàn wa, ẹ̀yin bàbá mi, ẹ̀yin ìyá mi, ẹ̀yin ni tẹ́ bá ti ṣe máa tẹ̀lé yín.
Okay, gbogbo ẹ̀ka wa lórí social media pátápátá ló ti connect báyìí, láti orí Twitter o, dé orí Facebook o, dé orí TikTok, tí dórí YouTube, àti gbogbo àwọn tó kù tí mi ò lè rántí orúkọ wọn. A dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ yín pé ní sùúrù fún wa kí àwọn tó kù balẹ̀ wá sí orí ètò ní àṣálẹ́ yìí. Gẹ́gẹ́ bí mo ṣe sọ lẹ́ẹ̀kan, mo kí gbogbo yín kẹ́ káàbọ̀ sí orí ètò wa ní àṣálẹ́ yìí, sí ètò Ronú Series tí YF yẹn Think Yorùbá First máa ń ṣe ní ọ̀sẹ̀ọ̀sẹ̀. A dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ Elédùà tó pé wọ́n dúró tì wá ní ọ̀sẹ̀ tó kọjá. A dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ wọn pé wọ́n pa á mọ́, wọ́n sì bá pẹ̀lú wa àti iṣẹ́ wa àti ìdílé wa. Gbogbo wa ẹ káàbọ̀ ní àṣálẹ́ yìí. Orúkọ tèmi ní Abíọ́dún Bákàrè. Mo ní lọ́dọ̀ mi báyìí Madam Àjọkẹ́ Adé láti Europe. Mo sì ní lọ́dọ̀ wa lọ́nà brother Ayọ̀, àwọn náà ní àwọn ọlọ́wọ́ ṣíbí wa lẹ́yìn tó wà ní backroom láti bá wo ètò bó ṣe ń lọ láti rí i pé gbogbo nǹkan tá à ń ṣe ó ń lọ létòlétò. Ààrẹ Bọ́lá Ìwà ṣe ti rẹ́dí fún aláṣálẹ̀ yẹn ṣetán.
Yes, I'm ready. I just want to ask the other technicians if we're ready. Yeah, I'm ready to go. So how do you ensure that it's just my own view that I'm on? Yes, thank you very much. Thank you so much. It's been a wonderful day. We greet you all in the name of Olodumare. I'm greeting all Yoruba people throughout the world for your patience with us, for your steadfastness, and for being always there for us at all times. Today promises to be interesting. Today promises to be very, very educative. Today's topic is the comparison between understanding empire building expansionism and how our world has been changed and how our world has been shaped by some human lifestyles that many people did not actually pay attention to. Once again, my name is Oladimeji Bolarawa, the president of Think Yoruba First organization. We are discussing a very powerful topic today, which is understanding cowboys and herdsmen and how they were used as historical tools of domination, as historical tools of empire building. It's a lot of people, I know many of us growing up watched a lot of movies, especially cowboy movies, where we saw the way cowboys were very wide with their slinging pistols, attacking Native Americans, fighting themselves, the wide west. Many of us actually did not understand the political, the demographical, and historical connotation, and how those cowboys actually created and solidified the American identity and the American borders. So what about herdsmen? Every day people see herdsmen. Herdsmen is a national issue, not just in Nigeria, not just in West Africa, not just in Central Africa, and even in North Africa, East Africa, and Southern Africa. So this is an issue that needs to be properly discussed so that we can properly understand the politics behind things that have happened in the past and things that are currently happening now in our lifetime. Nothing is absolutely new under the sun. And because nothing is new under the sun, we must understand how the real politics behind things. Many of us understand, we talk about the American Revolution. And when we talk about the American Revolution was just a revolution where the 13 colonies of America, which was created by the United Kingdom, rebelled against United Kingdom, and the settlers took over the sovereignty of the 13 colonies, and that was what gave rise to the United States of America. The United States of America was just a small piece of land that was located in the Eastern Territory along the Atlantic of current-day United States of America. The 13 colonies were merely almost just roughly 15 to 10% of the current landmass of America. So you have to understand that the reason why, the reason for the American Revolution that the founding fathers of America are always claiming was because they believe that all men are born equal. And one of the reasons why they revolted against the British Crown was because they believed that they were fighting colonialism. They were fighting the injustice of men against men. They were fighting for republicanism, they were fighting for egalitarianism, and they were fighting to destroy feudalism. But it is very, very surprising that immediately they got independence, America started young American country started what was called the Manifest Destiny. The Manifest Destiny was nothing but an expansionist ideology, a supremacist ideology that believed that America must expand from the east to the west, from the Atlantic to the Pacific. It was a very, very brutal, slow-moving, genocidal war machine. And having studied American history, most of the American states and the American expansionism was not actually conducted through symmetrical warfare. The territories America got, all the way from Hawaii to Texas, to California, to New Mexico, to Wyoming, most of these territories were to Oklahoma. Most of these territories were actually gotten through asymmetrical warfare. Asymmetrical warfare was that American settlers, mostly these pastoralists, these nomadic herdsmen that were called cowboys, with their cattle, they will settle in a particular place, change the demography, be fighting against the indigenous Americans, and they will be getting tacit support from the main government, from the American government. And when, in case there is war, one way or the other, the American government comes in, and that place becomes an American territory. States after states, colony after colony, from the lands of the unconquered indigenous nations like the Comanches, and Mexico, Spanish-speaking Mexico. America continued to take more lands and more lands and more lands. So who are the cowboys? So the cowboys were mostly pastoralists who controlled millions. They had millions of cattle, and they were the people that were taking their cattle from the eastern coast, from the east coast, from the Atlantic from the Atlantic to the Pacific. During this period, most of the expansion, the conquests, the territorial gains, and the eradication, the erasure of the indigenous people that took place in the United States of America took place in the 19th century. The 19th century was a century that actually determined a lot of things in the world. The 19th century was a century the Oyo Empire fell, collapsed. The 19th century was the century that gave rise to Ibadan. The 19th century was a century that led to the destruction of the ancient, powerful Yoruba city called Owu. The 19th century was the century where Ijaye was almost erased from the surface of the earth. The 19th century was the century of the bloody, fruitless Kiriji War that happened, civil war that happened in Yoruba land. The 19th century was the century that many people call the years of unending wars. The 19th century was a century that the Yoruba warlord, Field Marshal and Generalissimo Afonja, his dynasty was overthrown in Ilorin, and a Yoruba-speaking Fulani dynasty was created, led by Alimi. The 19th century was the century that the Lagos colony was created, where thousands of indigenous Yoruba people were killed in Eko, and the British were able to create that colony as the military outpost, which led to the eventual colonization of the entire the entire Yoruba civilization and Yoruba people, and the entire people of Nigeria and the creation of Nigeria. The 19th century was the century where there was that brutal war of Imagbon between the valiant Ijebu army and the British imperialists. The 19th century was the century of where we had the Berlin West African Conference. The 19th century was a century that actually shaped the world. It is also during this 19th century that America was able to get 60% of the current landmass of America. The ones they could not conquer through war, they got it through asymmetrical warfare. Some they were able to get it through insurgencies. Some they were able to buy it. They bought some from France, Louisiana, bought another one from Alaska, from Russia, called Alaska. So the 19th century was the century that the nomadic people were also able to change the destiny of the world in different places. The cowboys were extremely crucial, extremely critical in the creation of America. Without the cowboys with their cattle, where they were, because it was the cowboys that were able to explore, they were the explorers with their cattle armed to the teeth, and with their cattle to be able to go to many uncharted territories. And it was the roads, these colonies, these outposts, they called them the frontiers, that was created by the cowboys, these nomadic pastoralists, these European pastoralists, these English-speaking Anglo-Saxon pastoralists. Even though there has been many historical facts and in many historical literatures that there were also non-Anglo-Saxon cowboys that were mostly employed by Anglo-Saxon or European cattle owners, cattle rearers. So what is very, very constant in these cowboys, in this cowboy issue, this cowboy phenomenon, was that fundamentally they were nomadic people, they were pastoralists, and they were basically having war with sedentary populations. They were taking their cattle into the farms, into the lands, into the farms of the indigenous people. And during this time, it was called farmer herders crisis. They were saying, oh, the reason why we are moving our cattle was because we needed more lands, was because it is our lifestyle. We are pastoralists. We are never going to change our lifestyle. And they were getting tacit support from Washington, even though the American capital changed in different times. At the point in time, the capital of America was in Pennsylvania before it was taken to Washington. So I'll be using Washington as the capital of America. So they were getting backings from America. They were getting backings from Washington in this expansionist project because they were following a manifest destiny. The indigenous people in the War of 1812, the War of all wars, that was the main war where the indigenous Native Americans, they even got support from the United Kingdom, because after America defeated the United Kingdom and they were able to assert their sovereignty and created the United States of America, a Republican powerhouse. United Kingdom started supporting Native Americans and acting because they were the enemy of my enemy is my friend. United Kingdom supported the Native Americans. And maybe they tried arming them, giving them guns and ammunition in order to stop the expansion of America from the Atlantic to the Pacific, from the east to the west. That war was between 1812 and 1815. It was after the indigenous people of America, which they called the Native Americans, when they lost that war, that was that war that sealed their destruction. And many of these, it was called the frontier wars. And many of the actors of this war were the cowboys. I hope I've been able to, as many people now understand how America was founded by nomads. America was instituted by nomads. So the nomadic people and their lifestyle, using cattle, their business of cattle rearing, shaped the creation of the most powerful country on the surface of the earth, which is United States of America. Does it sound familiar? It sounds familiar. I'm going to use another example. A good example is South Africa. It was also cattle rearers that created that Southern African identity. I know many of you post-1996 are going to be looking at South Africa as a black country, but for close to 300 to 400 years, so Southern Africa was a white colony. It had a nuclear weapon. It was the most powerful country on the surface on the African continent. It was a white colony. It was a European colony. Even though there was an outpost first created in Table Bay, from there, the creation of Cape Town. But the inward expansion of Dutch settlers, which was sponsored by the VOC. What is the VOC? The VOC is the Dutch East Indian Company. The Dutch East Indian Company was the company responsible for the expansionism of Dutch cattle rearers. They called them the Boers. They were cattle rearers. Most of them were nomads, because they were taking their cattle from one place to the other. They are going to stay in one place 1, 2, 3 years. Their cattle are going to eat up the vegetation, eat up the ground. They move to another place. And that was how more and more Dutch settlers, they created different states like Natal, Transylvania, all these orange states that created and shaped South Africa as a white colony. The only thing the indigenous, the nomads, the white nomads, cattle rearers, the Boers did not do in South Africa was to exterminate the indigenous people, like the Cowboys did in America. So that was just the difference. If not, the case of South Africa would have been different. South Africa would have been like Australia. South Africa would have been like New Zealand. South Africa would have been like America. And how was this created? It was through nomadism. Cowboys, cattle rearers, they were the ones who shaped the identity of that country called South Africa for 300 to 400 years. Now let us talk about Nigeria. Let's talk about herdsmen. Who are the herdsmen? What is going on? There is a direct proportionality. And what I'll be saying tonight is not going to be propaganda. It is not hate. It is a message to the Yoruba people in Nigeria. It is a message to the Yoruba people of the world. It is a message to all the indigenous people in the world, for them to listen to this voice of reasoning. Tell your friends and family, because what I'll be saying tonight is extremely critical. Those indigenous people, there were many indigenous people in America in the 19th century that were saying, oh, it's a lie. Oh, it's a lie. Oh, these people do not, it's a manifest destiny, it's just propaganda. There were many people in the Hausa city states who saw that these nomads had another ulterior motives, and they were following a particular ideology. And the reality is, the use of pastoralism, cattle rearing, as a tool of expansionism did not start in America and did not start in South Africa. It has always been for thousands of years. It was something that's always known. That is an occurrence that has happened that is known in Europe. It's an occurrence that happened in Central Asia, in Far East Asia. The Mongolians were nomads. They were nomadic people. The Manchurians that also ruled China were nomadic people. The Turks that took over the Eastern Roman Empire called the Ottoman Empire, they were nomadic people. The Arabs that conquered, that took over the Cushitic kingdoms were Arabic people. The Arabs that took over the Egyptian Coptic kingdoms were nomadic people. So it is the Fulanis that took over the indigenous Hausa city states were nomadic people. The Tutsis that took over the indigenous Hutu Bantu kingdoms were nomadic people. So nomads have always, the Somalis, they were nomadic people in the conquest of the Bantus in that area of East Africa. So there is a proportionality. There is a proportionality, maybe from the Americas to East Asia, from East Asia to Australia, from every settler colony and many kingdoms that we see currently. It has always been cattle rearers using their business of cattle for empire building, domination, and subjugation of indigenous people. I'm going to come back into history. And when I mean history that happened just 10 years ago. In between 2015 and 2023, brothers and sisters, fellow Nigerians, especially the indigenous people of Nigeria that do not want to lose their land and do not want to become the victim of these ruthless empire builders. Listen to me and give me your ears. The problem we had during the time of Buhari was the problem of cattle and land. During the time of President Buhari, they were killing left, right, and centers. All of a sudden, it became a norm to see Fulani cattle and others armed with AK-47, claiming it is their right to take their cattle all the way from the Sahel into the south, into the unconquered territories, the territories that were not subjugated, the territories that were not brought to their knees, the territories that did not capitulate, the territories that were not Fulanized by Uthman Danfodio. And there were killings left, right, and center. It led to the rise of many self-determination movements all across Nigeria during the time of Buhari. And I remember Femi Adesina, the spokesman person to the late President Buhari, said, "It is better you give up your land or you are going to be dead." He said it. And one of the frivolous, ridiculous solutions that the Buhari government brought to Nigerians was that you need to give up your land. You give up 50 miles, left, right, and center of all the rivers. All the rivers. It's not when people talk about rivers, people talk about River Niger and River Benue. All the rivers in Nigeria should be given to the federal government of Nigeria. Can you tell me a conquest that is bigger than that? So all your Ogunpa River, for many of you are from Ibadan, all the Ogunpa River, all the Ogbere River, all the small rivers in your area, all your small streams, all your small rivers, all your small streams, River Ogun, all the Osun River, every of your river in the south. That means many places like the Ijaw people, the Ilaje people, and with the Yoruba people of Ishakiris, the Yoruba people of Ilaje that actually live on waters. Their entire, all the river and their tributaries, 50 miles, 50 miles. Ondo State will probably lose almost 70% of its coastal access, of its coastal zone, and be zoned to the Fulanis. And because it's going to be given to the federal government, and to be given, and the federal government is going to take it and settle Fulanis. That is going to be one of the biggest conquests that has happened in Africa for the past 300 years since the formation of the Sokoto Caliphate. Many of us saw it. We fought, we rebelled, we campaigned against it, we resisted peacefully, legally. We lobbied our political leaders, traditional leaders, to tell them how dangerous it is, because this is conquest, because we understand. Because look at the entire Yoruba, for most Yoruba cities were founded, Yoruba kingdoms were founded around rivers. Rivers is the foundation of empires. Rivers is the foundation of empires. Without rivers, there are no civilizations. Without rivers, there is no civilizations. So rivers are extremely critical for the sustenance, for the survival of any civilization. But this was what Buhari was asking for. Buhari was asking for, give up your land for the sake of peace. Fortunately, we thank God he lost. But as the killing stopped, it has not stopped. And we know what is happening. It has always been a people that are armed with AK-47 that are killing and maiming. I'm going to go back in history and let us trace the Fulani herdsmen migration. The Fulani herdsmen migration is from the Senegal-Guinea axis, from the source of River Niger. They moved their cattle, and this was how they were able to move around all around West Africa, Central Africa, even East Africa. And they've been able, using this issue of cattle rearing, to successfully transport themselves and turn themselves into a transnational and transcontinental ethnicity all across Africa. Until this present moment, for the past 500 years, they've been at war, whether during the period of the empires, whether during the periods of the nation states, whether during the periods of kingdoms, whether during the periods of the caliphates, whether during the periods of it doesn't matter the geopolitical construct, it has always been the war between the indigenous people and Fulani others. And this is the reality. This is not to demonize the Fulanis. It is not. It is for us to understand what they are doing with Nigeria. Many of the Fulanis that settled in the Hausa city states, they came with their cattle. They came with their cattle, and they came with their cattle. And when they came with their cattle, was these cattle that they used for this expansionism all across West Africa. It was these cattle that they used for the way they were able to push themselves all across West Africa. Now, the question you need to ask yourself, where are they attacking us? The Yoruba man listening to me in Kwara State and watching me tonight, you ask yourself, you are just a poor farmer. Where are they attacking you? Because you are the frontier city, you are in the frontier. This has happened in many civilizations of the world. And you have to ask yourself, it was during we must never forget what happened during the time of Buhari. Because what happened during the time of Buhari is surely going to come. Tinubu will not be the president of Nigeria forever. What happened during the time of Buhari is surely going to happen again. You have to ask yourself, what is the logic? What is the proportionality? How does it make sense that a particular ethnicity armed with AK-47 is killing people all over Nigeria, especially farmers and indigenous people, displacing people and occupying those places? Now you ask yourself this question. You say now you are looking for solutions. The Nigerian states is not looking for how to bring the killers of Nigerians to order. What the Nigerian state is saying is that the indigenous people must give up their land for the sake of peace. That is not peace. That is colonialism. That is expansionism. That is imperialism. That is the subjugation of the indigenous people. And this was what happened for 8 years. This was what we saw. We tolerated for 8 years. And I want to tell you that what is happening is conquest. It is from the Sahel to the sea. And we need to understand that this is a phenomenon that has happened all over the world. It has always been that herdsmen, pastoralists, they conquer. The most oftentimes, most pastoralist civilizations, they don't know how to build from the scratch. They attack well-established city-states, well-established kingdoms, attack it, seize the leadership, and take over the power, and they start using the land and the resources, re-engineer it for their own civilization. The Turks, who were pastoralists, who were nomadic people, are a very good example of this. They took over a whole empire, and for the past 600, 700 years, they became a superpower, and they are using it for their own survival till death. The Fulanis did the same thing in Sokoto, in Gobir, in the Hausa city states. The Tutsis did the same thing in Rwanda. These are historical facts. The question is, why are we so docile not to understand what is happening in Nigeria? So that is why you see that there are two diabolical and two dangerous ideology that is currently within Nigeria. As some people are moving, as some people are marching, as some people are transversing with their cattle armed with AK-47 and displacing people. And if you observe currently, there are frontier cities, states that have been under constant attack for the past 10 years. These frontier states are places that were not conquered by Usman Dan Fodio. And this is an expansion, because I gave you an example of America and Britain, British imperialism in America when I started this conversation. The British imperialism did not conquer most of those areas of East United States of America. British imperialism did not conquer from the west, from the Atlantic to the from the east to the west. They could not conquer the indigenous people. It was just diplomacy. They were living as good neighbors. But it was a manifest destiny. I believe the manifest destiny did not start from the USA. The manifest destiny started from the beginning of British imperialism. And they did not stop. That's why you see America is still looking for how to get more lands in Greenland, because it is a place that was built on expansionism and grabbing more territories. It's never going to stop, because that is the foundation, that is the psyche that gave birth to that state. And you have to look. So you look at, so they didn't stop until they were able to totally erase the indigenous nations, indigenous empires across Western America. So they call them the West Frontier, West American Frontier. And it was the cowboys that did the dirty job. The cowboys did the dirty job. Anytime you attack the cowboys, the indigenous people attack the cowboys, they are quick to send message to Washington. And the American government are going to say, oh, you are killing Americans. Oh, you are attacking Americans. You are attacking goods and services, just the same way that is happening in Nigeria. You are going to see herdsmen, when they commit crimes, they kill thousands of people, kill indigenous Christians, indigenous Muslims that are non-Fulani. They are going to say, oh, these people are not Nigerians, they are Fulanis from Gambia. Oh, they are Fulanis from Niger. Oh, they are Fulanis from Mali. Oh, they are not part of us. But the day the indigenous people start defending themselves, they'll start saying, oh, you are killing indigenous people. Oh, you are killing you are killing fellow Nigerians. The line has been blurred. And you start asking, you start saying, oh, we need to have peace. Oh, we need to, and you start asking yourself what is going on. That is why many of us raised the alarm. We raised the alarm. And why the NSA was, quote unquote, allegedly called out for empowering Fulani nationalist members, Miyetti Allah, to become vigilantes in Yoruba land without the consent of the Yoruba people, and the killings have not stopped. So let me talk about the frontier states. The frontier states in Nigeria, these states are the states that are currently that are determining life and death for the rest of us. For those of us, quote unquote, that call ourselves Southerners, it is this frontier states. What I'm telling you tonight is not the night to be insulting Yoruba people, be insulting Igbos, to be insulting Ijos, to be insulting Hausas. What I'm discussing tonight, it is to discuss, it is for us to be prepared, to be mentally prepared to understand what is happening in the world. And I'm going to give you this instance. I'm still not done. When I'm done, when I finish telling you the frontier states, I will still go to Sudan. I love the example of Sudan because the Sudan scenario, the Sudan reality is exactly what is happening and has happened in many places in the world. Many of us are 50 years, 40 years, 60 years. Right? We in our lifetime, we've witnessed the wiping out of millions of people. But because we watch it on TV, many of us think it's far. It is not far. Kwara State is not far, brothers and sisters. Kogi State is not far, brothers and sisters. Taraba State is not far. Benue State is not far. Those are the frontier states. Kwara, Benue, Kogi, Taraba. Those are the states between life and death for all Southerners. Those are the buffer states that are fighting for their lives. And that is why, and those places is where the two great rivers in Africa, in West Africa, in the Black World, those are the two places where they meet. Currently, we see that Egypt and Ethiopia are preparing to go to war. Why are they ready to go to war? Because Egypt and Ethiopia are fighting over the control of the Nile River. The Nile River, they are ready to go to war because of it. When you look at the Black people, indigenous people, Yoruba people, the chiefs, the Birams, give me your ears, the Galas, you are seeing that you are being expunged from your land by a race that is notorious for exterminating and erasing people from their indigenous lands for the past 400 years. Because we are politically correct, we do not understand what is going on. This is not a call for hate. It is for us to understand what is going on within Nigeria. You can't build Pan-Africanism on this. You need to be alive for you to do your Pan-Africanism. I'm talking to you Pan-Africanists because you need to understand Pan-Africanism did not stop the balkanization of Sudan because it was a matter of life and death. And the people of South Sudan had to run away and flee from their lives and flee from nomadic Arabs. Now let's go to Darfur. Darfur is a good example. What happened in Darfur was a very good instance. What did Darfur was not conquered for 1,000 years. For 1,000 years, Darfur was not conquered. For 1,000 years, Darfur was not conquered. The people of Darfur fought with their lives. The people of Darfur fought with their lives. And they won. They won the physical war. They won the psychological war. They could not use Islam to break them. They could not use intermarriage to break them. They held down to Darfur, and Darfur was even an empire at the period of time. They built powerful empires. They became Muslims, but that did not stop them. The Arabs kept on coming, and something happened. European imperialism happened. And what the Arabs could not achieve for 1,000 years, European imperialism gave it to them. The Berlin West African Conference happened to them. Darfur was carved into the British colony of Sudan. And political power was given to the Sudanese over the indigenous Black Darfuris for the first time in 1,000 years. This was just what they needed. And what happened between 1950 to 2005, the Sudanese Arab-controlled government started promoting the migration of Arabized nomadic people from Chad they started moving into Sudan. They started moving into Sudan. They were giving them money. They were arming them, giving them with guns. These Arabs and these nomadic herdsmen that used to come with stick, all of a sudden came with AK-47. And when they were coming with AK-47, they started fighting with indigenous Darfuri farmers. And when the Darfur people said, no, this is our land, you cannot kill us, don't wipe us from our land. What happened? The Sudanese government was now saying, they are your fellow Sudanese. You need to stop tribalism. Oh, give them land for their pastures. Give them land for their cows. Give them land for their camels. They are just pastoralists. Oh, they are victims of Nigeria, of bad governance. Oh, this pastoralists, they are also victims. Oh, they need to be treated with care. That was the same rhetoric that was said in Darfur. The Darfur of the genocide of Darfur did not start in 2000s. It was gradual. The people of Darfur went from being accommodating hosts to become the biggest victim of black genocide, to be the biggest victims of genocide that has never been seen for the past 100 years, ever since the Holocaust. We saw what happened around November, December, where Arabs, led by Dagolo, was essentially killing thousands of black people in Darfur, and the world did not give a damn. Nobody even talks about Darfur anymore. Nobody talks about the Sudan conflict anymore, because the lives of black people do not matter in the scale of things. Your economic power determines your position on the table in the world. It is not your tears. It is not because you think you're human. It is your economic power and your political leverage. And the people, the Darfur, the genocide, the slow motion eradication of the people of Darfur started in the lifetime of many of us. You go to many cities in Darfur now that were black majority. 30, 40 years ago, the majority now is now Arabs. They keep on bringing more and more Arabized pastoralists. The central government, this was the legacies of Omar al-Bashir, the former president of Sudan, where he was giving money to pastoralists, to nomadic herdsmen to come and settle in Darfur, giving them AK-47, arming them to the teeth. They created a militia, one of the most bloodiest, ruthless, cold-blooded militias in the world, called the Janjaweed. It was the Janjaweed that was used to totally massacre and destroy the indigenous people of Darfur. And what happened today? Darfur, that used to be a black state, one of the things they also did was to break Darfur into different states. It is not different from what happened to the people in the Northwest, in northern Nigeria, where the ethnic minorities that were not conquered by Usman and Fodio forces were broken into pieces. They were broken into different, into different states. And this was what made it easy for the conquest of Darfur, for the conquest of the indigenous people of northern Nigeria, and now it has happened in Darfur. The same thing happened in the United States of America. Oklahoma, majority of many of the states in America, like Utah, Oklahoma, Wyoming, these were states, Idaho, these are states named after indigenous people. These were names of indigenous lands. These are indigenous lands. Utah, these are names of indigenous people, indigenous territories. So you look like state like Oklahoma, the majority of the indigenous ethnicities, they came together to create, to form, to aggregate together in that place. And they were even trying to say, okay, look, if we continue to fight these American settlers, these cowboys, we are not going to survive. Let us play the American politics. We are indigenous people. Okay, give us our own states within the United States of America. Give us our own states. They said, no. They broke Oklahoma into pieces and turned majority into minorities, pushed many of them into reservations. The conquest, the expansion of America via the use of cowboys as frontier force, as forward battalions from the 19th century to around 1920, where 1913, majority of the American states, the states in America was created during this time. While the cowboys were moving, they were creating states and changing demography. Does it sound familiar to what is happening in Nigeria today? That is exactly what is happening in Nigeria today. Because you have to understand, that is why they are saying that many northern leaders, by the Tinubu government is saying, men are sponsoring terrorism. They are the ones pushing terrorism. And yet Yala is part of it. The Fulani Nationalist Organization is part of it. There is a lot of things they are not going to allow you to say because they are fearing about the pushback. But there is fire on the mountain. If Kwara falls, if Kogi falls, if Benue falls, if Taraba takes a knee, we are next because they're not going to stop. The agenda of Buhari is the agenda, the ideology of the herdsmen, of the cowboy. That's why they call them the herdsmen. That's why they anytime you push back, they start saying, oh, you are not a good Nigerian. You start asking, oh, you need to give up your land in order for us to build this Nigeria. And many of us don't actually understand. And you cannot win this war by being angry alone. You cannot win against these hordes by being emotional alone. You can only win by understanding what they are trying to do. It is to do what they've done in Sudan in Darfur. It is to do what was done in South Africa. It is to do what was done in the United States of America. So the cowboys and the herdsmen are the same. In different lifetime, they are using this as a tool of expansionism and imperialism. It's an asymmetrical warfare because chaos is one of the biggest tools of empire builders. If Nigeria is stable, if the indigenous people are stabilized, they will never be able to displace you. You look at what is happening in Nigeria. Many of the people that have been chased from their homeland in Plateau, in Benue, in Katsina Hala, in Benue, in southern Kaduna, many of them are living permanently in IDP camps. They've turned those IDP camps into cities. Many people are now building schools, hotels, hospitals in IDP camps, opening shops. Politicians are not going to IDP camps to campaign. They will go to IDP camp and say, oh, if you vote for us, we will build schools for you. Politicians are not going there to campaign that we are going to relocate you back to your lands. Because they're going to tell you, those who chased them from their ancestral homelands are also Nigerians. So don't talk about it. And the reality is, there is no destabilized Nigerian. The only destabilized Nigerians are those that are brain dead. There is no destabilized Nigeria. The only destabilized Nigeria are people that are walking into their own extermination. You need to understand this. You need to understand this. Your ignorance is not an excuse. If you are ignorant, you will be exterminated. The outside people, peasants, were ignorant and they are in slavery till date. You cannot be ignorant. You need to know what you are doing. You have no excuse for ignorance. There are millions and billions and billions of literatures for you to read. Understand the cowboy ideology. Understand the herdsman ideology. And you can stand a chance for survival. Because it is survival. You can never be politically correct. You can never be politically correct when it comes to your survival. Which is why the Nigerian power brokers, they promote two things: religion and entertainment. In the ancient Roman Empire, they built great colosseum, amphitheaters, where gladiators used to perform. These things were things that were used to keep the population docile. It is entertainment. It is entertainment. When this was not working properly, they created religion. They adopted a state religion, which is why Nigeria sponsored Christianity and sponsors Islam. It pours billions both at the state and at the federal government, federal level. They pour billions and billions into it in order to keep people not to be able to reason, in order not to keep the people not to be able to revolt. Because if there's no political Islam, the outside people will revolt. If there's no political Islam, the indigenous Yoruba people will revolt in Ilorin. If there's no political Islam, the Yoruba, the Nupe people will revolt in Niger States. Tonight, that's why I said tonight's lecture is a very powerful lecture. You have to understand what is going on. The Cowboys, the Herdsmen, everybody's building a Nigeria of their dream. There's another dangerous ideology coming from Igbo land. There's another dangerous ideology coming from the Southeast. Because they also need land. They believe that they have what it takes to fight against indigenous people across Nigeria, and they are saying, let us still remove state of origin and replace with state of residence. If this country is going to descend into a slaughterhouse, if that ever happens, because it's going to be free for all. There's already slaughter going on in Jos, in Plateau, because you need to understand that. And you need to understand that the example of America happened in Plateau State. And what is the example of America that happened in the Plateau State? Hausa Fulani settlers were not indigenous to that area of Jos. That area of Jos, IBB created a local government for them. For them. IBB created a local government for them. If that population swells, another Fulani political leader comes tomorrow, he creates a state for them. Just like America. I'm going to stop here. Thank you.
Ààrẹ ṣeun gan ni o. A kí gbogbo yín ní ibi tí ẹ ti ń gbọ́ wa látòrí Twitter, látòrí YouTube, látòrí Facebook àti gbogbo ẹ̀ka social media tó kù. Ẹ ṣeun ààrẹ. Ọlọ́mọ alọ́ra yìí fún wa ní T-Wive. Ẹ̀yin èèyàn wa tí ìbéèrè wa wà tí ohunkóhun tẹ́ fẹ́ bá ààrẹ sọ àbí fẹ́ ṣàlàyé fún wa, ẹ jọ̀ọ́ àsìkò ti tó báyìí. A máa fún yín ní 30 ìṣẹ́jú láti bá wa sọ̀rọ̀, láti béèrè ìbéèrè yín. Tí ẹnikẹ́ni bá wà ń bẹ̀, ọ̀gá ẹjọ́rọ̀ mi tẹ́ wá rẹ́ anybody kí n mọ̀ wọ́n tí wọ́n fẹ́ béèrè tí ó pé lórí Twitter lọ lẹ́wà ní ẹjọ́ ẹnu wọ́n yín sókè ká lè gbé yín wá sókè láti wá béèrè ìbéèrè yín. And if you have any other questions, either from the Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube, please kindly put your questions up so we can read them out and I can give you an answer. Thank you very much. You see, we are privileged in our own time to have an organization like T-Wive. In the times of our forefathers, we have Paulo, we have a woman to do that eventually grew and grew. And today we have, in the past, we also have had Afenifere. We are grateful that we Yorubas are always full of wisdom. And we pray that this wisdom will not depart from our midst. It will continue to be with us even until the end of time. We pray that our children, when they grow up after us, or our grandchildren that will come after us, will have more wisdom and continue this battle to make the world know that Yorubas are not, we're just nobody. We're just nobody. We are people that God created uniquely and give us wisdom, give us understanding on how to be careful in this life that we find ourselves. Okay, Muri Mr. Oluwa Toby. Okay. Láti orí Twitter. Mr. Oluwa Toby ẹ káàbọ̀, ẹ jọ̀ọ́ láti sọ sókè ní o. Ṣé gbọ́? Okay, mo ń gbọ́ yín sìn, ẹ má sọ̀rọ̀ yín. Yeah, Mr. Oluwa Toby, go ahead. Can Mr. Oluwa Toby hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, please go ahead and ask your question.
Yes, sir. evening to everybody. I would love to have asked this question. The speaker that spoke last 2 weeks, he made mention of something, and which I want to direct the question to the house and probably to Ari. He said that it is time for us to go to the field. I think everybody was there that day when he was explaining is that we are that a lot of things have to be said here that we need to go to the field. And based on what Are is saying, if we are to be proactive, I think it is time for us to take this awareness much more than this now to the street so that people can know what is going on. Because I won't lie to you, a lot of people don't even know what is going on presently. They are just hearing clashing, people are killing themselves, and they are not even aware of this present nomadic stuff that is actually happening. And they used to see something like it's teaching time saves life. Please, what can we do? How can we go about to take this thing off, not just from online to the physical this thing, for people to have more access to this information so that they can know what to do, so that we can be more proactive. For us to save our risk, because you will say, that's my.
ẹ ṣe gan Mr. Oluwaseun, ẹ ṣe gan, thank you very much. Are, yeah.
If you listen to the end of my lecture, I said the greatest tool of empire builders is the ignorance of the conquered people. So if the conquered people actually do not have any idea of what is surely going to happen to them, they might not stand a chance for survival. So this is exactly what is currently happening. So we must make sure that religion, hypnotism, and religious hypnotism and entertainment hypnotism does not dumb down our people for them to know that there is danger. For them to know that there's danger. What we are currently seeing in Nigeria is an intentional social engineering from a particular ethnicity that have understood empire building, and they want to continue what they stopped in the 19th century. I have understood, for instance, many people don't know that Museveni of Uganda is from a minority ethnicity. Museveni of Uganda is from a minority ethnicity. In fact, the population of the ethnicity of Museveni is not even up to 5% of the population of Rwanda. And they have been ruling Nigeria they've been ruling Uganda for the past almost 40 years. They've turned it into a family fiefdom. And let me tell you the truth, they can continue that way for the next 300, 400 years. People will shout, people will continue to shout, and nothing will happen. And not only that, Museveni is from a nomadic ethnicity too, that share a lot of similarities. The ancestors of Museveni are pastoralists. I am sorry I'm saying this. This is not for people to see pastoralists as, there are many pastoralists that are just doing their thing. But if you look at the pattern, you cannot just ignore what you're seeing. The pattern is the same. From East Africa to South Africa to North Africa, it is the same. So we need to understand what is going on. We need to decode what is going on. Why are they always being the one that are always organizing revolts? That is why neoliberal leftists are the most dangerous people within our current political system. These are people that are always angry. They are always destructive. They do not decode. They can't think deeply. To them, it's all about left or everything is white and black. So we just need to continue to educate our people in order to stand a chance. That's all. That's all. Because without the education of our people, we are going to have we are going to have political leaders that are going in the name of liberalism, national unity, are going to sign away our survival for other ethnicities, for people that have ulterior motive. Thank you.
X that I love so much. And as I said, we should not allow religion, we should not allow ourselves to be used by those who want to bring religion to blindfold us and then say, oh, ọmọ ìsìn kan ni wá. Àwa sọ pé torí pé àjọ ọmọ ìsìn kan, a gbàgbé pé ọmọ bàbá kan ni wá. Okay? And I took time last year to explain to us about what happened in Sudan. No, nígbà tí àwọn Arab yẹn dé sí ilẹ̀ Sudan, díẹ̀díẹ̀ bá ń ṣe wọ̀ wọ́n lára tó ń fi ẹ̀sìn tó ń fi bójú wọn ní òní kí ló ń ṣẹlẹ̀ wọ́n pa wọ́n nípa pupa ni. Wọ́n bá arákùnrin yìí sọ̀rọ̀ wọ́n ní ṣé wọ́n láìkí gbogbo bí wọ́n ṣe ń pa àyàn kí ló náà wò láìkí mo ní kí ló tó wà kí n sọ̀rọ̀ síta kó o sọ̀rọ̀ against ẹ̀. Wọ́n ní kò ní láti sọ̀rọ̀ against ẹ̀ pé wọ́n ń ṣe mùsùlùmí alákatakítí. Wọ́n ní ẹ̀sìn tí bàbá yẹn ń ṣe tí ìyá yẹn ń ṣe tí wọ́n nífẹ̀ẹ́ sí. Ó dì wá rí àwọn kan tó ń borúkọ ẹ̀sìn yẹn jẹ́ ìwọ́n lè dákẹ́ wò ṣe nǹkan kan wò sọ̀rọ̀ ń pa ẹ̀. Náà fẹ́ kí wọ́n rí òun bíi pé òun ṣọ̀tá Islam. Ní òun ò ṣọ̀tá ẹ̀sìn kankan pé kó o sọ̀rọ̀ nípa nǹkan tí ò dáa tó ń lọ ní àwùjọ. Kò sí pé kò gbójú dandan pé o jẹ́ ọ̀tá nǹkan tó ṣẹlẹ̀, jẹ́ ọ̀tá àwùjọ. I mean, how does that translate? That you are speaking against extremism? How does that mean that you hate the religion? But kò lè yé nítorí pé wọ́n ní àwọn ẹgbẹ́ kan tó gbọ́n wọn wà tọ́jọ́ máa ń ṣeré. Ẹgbẹ́ yìí náà ló ń kọ́ wọn pé tó bá ti sọ̀rọ̀ báyìí ayé á rí ẹ pé o ò fẹ́ òun sọ̀rọ̀ sí àwọn ará òkè ọ̀yà nìyẹn. So kí ni kí gbọ́n dákẹ́. Wọ́n sọ fún wọn ní gbogbo ìta ìṣe yìí mo ní kò lè pé yín because nígbà tí àwọn arákùnrin gba àwọn ìbú pé tí wọ́n wọlé Yorùbá wá Ọlọ́run jẹ́ wọlé Yorùbá o. Irú àwọn tó kàn wọn pa àní òbí títí ẹ jẹ́ pé èèyàn jẹ́jẹ́ èèyàn náà ni wọ́n kàn fẹ́ lọ sí mọ́ṣáláṣí kó kírun kó gbàdúrà kó ń sin Ọlọ́run kó lè lọ láì kó padà sọ́dọ̀ bàbá tó mú wọn sáyé. Wọ́n ní nǹkan tó fẹ́ ṣe nìyẹn. We have lots of Muslims like that. Like my dad kò sí tó mọ̀ pé wọ́n ṣe alákatakí tí wọ́n ní wọ́n sin Ọlọ́run kó gbàdúrà wọn máa lẹ́ẹ̀ márùn lójúmọ́ kó lọ Mẹ́kà kó lè padà wálé. Kí ló kọ́ wọn pé tá a bá bẹ́ẹ̀ nìkan lórí tá a bá sọ nìkan ló kó pa tá a bá ṣe lé tá a bá ṣe tàn pé a lè jẹ́ ẹlẹ́sìn gidi. So please, we are not saying you should because you want to be good people, because you want to be nice people, then when you see something bad, come out sọ̀rọ̀ nípa ẹ̀. Òun ní ààrẹ sọ fún wa ẹ bẹ́ẹ̀ kan fi gbọ́ nǹkan bẹ́ẹ̀ kan fi bò wá lójú. Nílẹ̀ Yorùbá náà a tún ní ìṣòro kan tó tún ṣẹlẹ̀ sí wa ń sìn. Ààrẹ sọ́gbà kan ó ní ó fọ́ọ̀nì gan ó fọ́ọ̀nì lọ́jọ́ yẹn. Ó blé yìí náà ìṣòro Yorùbá tá a ti ṣe pàtí báyìí ìṣòro wa ti tán. Ààrùn nǹkan bí mọ́ bí pàtí ṣíṣe kò ṣe ìṣòro kì í ṣe ohun tó burú ó dáa ṣùgbọ́n nípa ọ̀rọ̀ ajé wa nípa ọ̀rọ̀ ọjọ́ ọ̀la wa ó ṣe kókó ká dì mú. Bí wọ́n ṣe mú wá sí pé Yorùbá yìí àwa ó wà bẹ́ẹ̀ ni wá bẹ́ẹ̀ ni kò mọ̀ ọ́n náà pé tó bá ti kan ọ̀rọ̀ ìdáàbòbò ilẹ̀ Yorùbá ó wà bẹ́ẹ̀ náà ni wá o. Ó wà bẹ́ẹ̀ òun ṣe kókó jẹ́ dandan pé jíjẹ mímu ṣíṣe pàtí ká wọ aṣọ òkè ká wọ gbogbo ẹ̀ ó ju ìyẹn lọ ó wà bẹ́ẹ̀ ju bẹ́ẹ̀ lọ. Jẹ́ kó mọ̀ pé ní tí o tó o níbi ká dáàbò bo ilẹ̀ Yorùbá ká gbé ilẹ̀ wa lárugẹ. Yes, ìyẹn gangan ni ó wà ń bẹ̀ tó tí a bá ní ìsinmi a man that is not comfortable cannot serve God well. Tó bá délẹ̀ tó ń sìn kò sí tó máa ráyè ṣe pàtí o kò sí tó máa ráyè pé òun fẹ́ lọ ṣe gbéyàwó àti ní òkè ìyá gbàmí dání kó lọ kó àwọn mi tó ń ṣe gbéyàwó àti ìyàwó àtọkọ wọn kó wọn lọ rárá. Èèyàn wà ní ilé ìjọsìn máa ń sin Ọlọ́run tí jẹ́jẹ́jẹ́jẹ́ wọ́n débẹ̀ wọ́n kó wọn lọ. Ṣé ti rí sí pé ẹni tí ò bá ti ní ìfọkànbalẹ̀ kò lè sí Ọlọ́run Ọlọ́run máa ràn wá lọ́wọ́. Ṣeun ààrẹ lẹ́ẹ̀kan sí thank you brother Mr. Olu. Now a ní Mr. Alẹ́gbẹ́lẹ́yẹ Mr. Alẹ́gbẹ́lẹ́yẹ ẹ káalẹ́ o ẹ káàbọ̀ sórí ètò. Ẹ ṣeun sà ààrẹ ṣe lè gbọ́ wọn ààrẹ.
Mo gbọ́ díẹ̀díẹ̀.
Pé ẹ jẹ́ wá sọ̀rọ̀ sókè díẹ̀ sí sà. ó ti lọ sórí desert bí àwa nílé ni wọ́n á ń ṣe bí echo.
Okay, no, what I agree. Sorry, maybe I could disconnect. I don't know.
No, okay, go on sir àti àmọ́ manage bọ́ lọ́wọ́ bó ṣe wà mẹ́rin.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. One thing that I just want to clarify is that I think majority of us might even understand the process of the work order. Recently, I think Prime Minister of Canada was in Davos and he made mention some certain things that people are not even following what is happening in the world right now. We are trying to explain to us that the world is changing. The world is beginning to change that whosoever that is not tied up his own geopolitics or does not master the power base that embodies values and respect for their geopolitics or for their territory is going to be wiped out. I'm not the one that said this, is the Prime Minister of Canada that said this during the recent meeting in Davos. So what am I trying to say is that, and the world is beginning to have a shape of what we call the neutrality of the power base. And don't forget that I think I read a book in 1978. This tech docent that wrote a book, what's his name? I think Dr. Abel. He wrote a book that called the book The Power of the Powerless. If you go and understand, read that book, you understand the question of how the communist system sustain their power. And this is what Aware has been trying to preach to us since. Regional power, indigenous power is very vital to any sustainable development, which we must begin to fine-tune into our own stronghold in the southwest. Ilẹ̀ Yorùbá ilẹ̀ tó jẹ́ pé ilẹ̀ tí àwọn èèyàn máa ń ṣẹ́gun fún mi. I was recently going through some certain documents and I saw that, the power of the Yorubas stretched from through the entire Benin, Togo, Ghana. And what happened? When the Benin came in, they begin to divide the state, bring the border into the territory, and begin to separate the power from us. So, what I want to just emphasize on is that in Nigeria, especially the present administration that is on seat today, I think majority of us understand the power base. What we don't understand is the responsibility that comes towards it. The responsibility that comes towards it is simple. Know who you are at your own space. If you understand what the agenda of the colonization are proposing to Nigeria, it's a terrible, terrible, terrible deal. And they know it. The new administration is not making a mistake by bringing America into the fold. That has always been the backdrop of what the Fulani doesn't want in Nigeria. But now the American system are coming to support the security enforcement of this nation. It's a message. It's a message. Not any Fulani people want American forces in Nigeria. But this administration is trying to say, no, if I'm going to govern right and I'm going to bring the economic prosperity to this nation, I will need these people to be engaged. And now, like I said, you cannot have a power base without not having the economic stretch. And Southwest is so blessed to do. Look at the kind of development that is coming. A lot of hydro has coming that okay, why would they put the gold refinery in Lagos? Why would they put the gold refinery in Lagos? And you explain, it's a private coming in Ondo and Ogun State. We have the oil that is coming in Ogun State also. The oil refinery that is coming in Ondo or Ogun State too. So these are the points whereby we can demand our authority and begin to take charge of our sovereignty as a Southwesterners that we all are. Àwọn bàbá ńlá wa ò fi bẹ̀rù àwọn bàbá ńlá wa kọ́lọ́ máa fi ẹ̀ṣẹ̀ wọn dárí bí wọ́n níbi tó bá wà. They fought for the us. They bled for us. And really the right time that we need to stand and begin to speak up because we need to understand that, Nigeria is not a nation. It's a territorial war zone, whereby whosoever has the arsenal to bring forth will reign. And we must begin to applaud directly what is pushing forward as a people in CYA. We appreciate him, we thank him, and the most important thing is that we can understand the drive of his message, which is very key to what we are doing.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for it.
No. Agbádùn contribution yín gan. This is very, very, very important. Thank you very much, sir. Ẹ ṣeun, sir. Thank you so, so much. That's what we're telling people to please. Yeah, that's what we're trying to tell everybody to please join T-Wife because ìjà yìí kì í ṣe ìjà ẹnìkan. Ìjà gbogbo wa ni. Kó lè dá fún ọjọ́ ọ̀la àwọn ọmọ wa ni. Òun là ń jà fún ilẹ̀ Yorùbá. Bàbá Awólọ́wọ̀ kí Ọlọ́run fi ọ̀run kẹ́ wọn. Gbogbo ọdún tó ń lò náà lórí ìjà tá à ń sọ yìí kò máa pọ́dún mẹ́wàá. Bí ọ̀tẹ̀ pé mẹ́fà gan ni gẹ́gẹ́. Gbogbo wọn tá à ń sọ tá a ṣe ń sọ di òní tá a ṣe máa sọ títí ayé máa fi parẹ́ ni ọkùnrin yẹn ṣe láàrin bí ọdún 3 sí 4 péré. Kò sí gọ́vnà yẹn nílẹ̀ Yorùbá lè ní tó lè surpass nǹkan tí ọkùnrin yẹn nìkan ṣe. Kò sí ẹnìyẹn nílẹ̀ Yorùbá. So ẹ jọ̀ọ́ la ṣe ń sọ̀rọ̀ yìí tá a pààrọ̀ sí gbogbo wa tẹ́ ń gbọ́ wa níbi kí wọ́n ti ń gbọ́ wa nílẹ̀ Amẹ́ríkà ni o nílẹ̀ Japan ni o everywhere you find yourself in the world as a Yoruba person we are appealing to you please join T-Wife contribute to T-Wife support T-Wife so that gbogbo ètò tí a ń tò pátápátá fún ilẹ̀ Yorùbá á ṣeéṣe fún wa. Wọ́n ń gbọ́ wa arúgbó wọn ń gbọ́ wa ni wọ́n ń gbọ́ àwọn olórí wa wọ́n ń gbọ́ wa wọ́n sì ń lísìn sí wa bẹ̀tẹ̀ ẹ ṣáà jẹ́ ká máa ṣe kó tá à ń ṣe lọ. Ẹ ṣeun sà adúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ yín sà ọ̀gbẹ́ni Ẹlẹ́gbẹ́lẹ́yẹ. Before the next speaker comes up, I want to take a very short time, like 30 seconds to 1 minute, to read some comments on from our other social media platform. A ní àwọn èèyàn kan láti orí YouTube tán ṣọwọ́ sí wa tán fún wa ní ẹ̀bùn. Ẹ ṣé gan adúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ yín Mr. Dakpasis ẹ ṣé gan thank you very much. A ní àwọn míì tí wọ́n the Cowboys these are different various comments and wonderful comments. Mr. Joseph Adeyemi from Facebook ó ń sọ fún wa báyìí pé the same scenario kẹtẹ wà wọ lójú pọnrán yín ní the same scenario at play in this war Nigeria with the Fulanis at the fore. Ìgbà tí Aláṣẹ bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí sọ̀rọ̀ àṣàlátà àrẹ́gàn tí kí ti Fúlàní ọ̀rọ̀ cowboy nìkan lẹ́yìn sọ́ngbà yẹn. So that is what Mr. Joseph Adeyemi said at that time that the same scenario is at play in this war Nigeria with the Fulanis at the fore. Ẹ ṣeun thank you very much. A tún ní àwọn kọ́mẹ́ǹtì róṣìṣì lọ́tún ló sì bẹ́ẹ̀ but aṣáàdúpẹ́ lọ gbogbo àti à ń gbọ́ ètò T-Wife ní àṣálẹ́ ẹjọ́ tó wà tún wà ní orí ètò mo rí pé nìkan wá sókè lẹ́nu tó fẹ́ béèrè ìbéèrè kan Madam Àjọkẹ́ Adé jẹ́ rí ní ìbọ̀dé tó ní ìbéèrè àbí láti ibi tí ẹ dùn wá tó ń fẹ́ sọ̀rọ̀. Okay, Oda. This is another comment from Mr. Yomite látorí this is YouTube. Only Islam has been in Hausa land way before the arrival of Madam Fodio. They were deceived using the religion and the political control of their land had been taken away from them till today. And I'm very sure if care is not taken, it will be till eternity. So ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ nǹkan ló wà ní ètò wa ní àbí ààrẹ fẹ́ ní kọ́mẹ́ntì kéré sí ọ̀rọ̀ tí Mr. Yohan sọ látòrí tó of course because gbogbo ẹ̀ lè ti sọ tán náà ọ̀rọ̀ yẹ ṣeun thank you very much. Yes, Mr. This is another from YouTube, Mr. Martins, if I'm correct, 7860. Only even Yoruba land too. Islam has been Yoruba land since 1100. You can check picture of Islam. That's Yoruba land more than half a millennium ago. Láti ní ẹ̀sìn lọ́dọ̀ wa tí ò lè sí pé ẹ̀sìn ẹlẹ́yàmẹ̀yà ó ṣẹlẹ̀ nígbà kan rí lọ́dọ̀ tiwa. Ẹ ṣé gan ni. Thank you very much. So if you have any further comments, please you can bring them up. Tí o bá dé wá sí torí àti fẹ́ parí ètò náà sí akànṣe ní ká dúró díẹ̀ sí ni tí ẹnikẹ́ni bá wà tó fẹ́ sọ mọ́mí dábìrì mo kí ẹ kálẹ́ o ẹ káàbọ̀ sórí ètò mo rí obìnrin àkànṣe náà ẹ kálẹ́ yẹn látòrí pákàndù tí mo wà ní o ẹ má bínú tí mo rárá pé ibi tẹ wà lọ́hùn o àwọn tí mo rí níwájú mi ọ̀gá ṣèmà ọ̀gá tó dé gbogbo wa arábìnrin Mọ́remí mo kí náà ẹ káàbọ̀ Àkànbí gboyin bẹ́ẹ̀ madam Makon àwọn accountant general nìyẹn of the federation of not the federation káàbọ̀ mo kí n náà gbogbo bẹ́ẹ̀ orúkọ yẹn pọ̀ lọ rẹ̀ àwọn ọmọ àkókò ẹ̀yin ará o ẹ̀yin tèkìtì ẹ̀yin ará o Tòǹdó akí gbogbo yín káàbọ̀ sórí ètò ní àṣálẹ́ tí ó bá ti wá sí ìbéèrè kankan mọ́ a lè fi àdàgbà ètò ká fi rọ̀ sí ibi báyìí ní àṣálẹ́ ètò kù di lọ́sẹ̀ tó ń bọ̀ kí Elédùà kan ṣọ́wájú ọ̀sẹ̀ tó ń bọ̀ lọ ká tó lè pàdé lẹ́ẹ̀kan sí ààrẹ ẹ ṣeun gan ọpọlọ yín o kò ní dóbo gbogbo ẹ̀yin tẹ́ ń títí wáyé fún lẹ́yìn o àrọ́wọ́ yín o Elédùmarè náà lè rí ọwọ́ yín náà àdúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ yín ẹ ṣeun gan ni ó di ọ̀sẹ̀ tó ń bọ̀ thank you very much bye.